Thank you so much to everyone who is on here today. I know you guys gave up some of your time to be on here, and everybody has busy schedules. So thank you so much for being on the call. I believe we have churches from all over the denomination on this call today from our 22 districts. So that's super exciting. And I want to start just by saying we're so excited about this Kids in Worship initiative and this grant and how it will impact our churches and our denomination. So I also believe we have some of our DSs on the call today. So we just want to give a shout out to them. Thank you for helping us spread the word. My participant list right now says 84, which is incredible. So that's a big thank you to them. So thank you for being here, all of the DSs. So I don't know if Santis is on the call. Santis, are you here? Don't know if he is. So what we're going to do is we're going to pray together and then we'll go ahead and start. All right. God, thank you so much. What an incredible opportunity we have as a denomination, as Next Gen, Jesus, to just be a part of something so significant and big. And God, we thank you for the beautiful people on this call and all of the churches that are represented. God, I thank you for the calling you have on their lives and the ministries that they lead. God, we're so grateful for them. Jesus, I pray as we talk, as we share lots of information today, that you would be with us, that your presence would be felt among us as we churches make their decisions on if they would like to participate or not. We give you the glory for everything in your beautiful name, I pray. Amen. So I would like to start by introducing our team. So I want to make sure that you know who our team is and what their roles are. So what we're going to do is just kind of go around. There's four of us. I'll start. I'm going to just introduce myself, what role I play, and then kind of just a little short explanation about what I'm doing with the grant. So my name is Stephanie Ryan. And I am the Next Gen with the Next Gen team as Kids Ministry Catalyst, but I'm also the program director for Kids in Worship Initiative. So my role in this is I essentially help manage the grant, help with oversight and direction. I'll be working directly with your churches and overseeing the process from the beginning to the end with our team. So I'm going to pass it on to Stephanie Freemeyer and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Freemeyer, Children's Director at College Wesleyan Church in Marion, Indiana. And I am the curriculum coordinator for this grant. One of the things that we'll be doing is creating curriculum and with an emphasis on that intergenerational worship. I think in a minute I'll get to talk more about that, but that's who I am, my role.
Justine?
Hey, I am Justine Teagan. I know I've communicated with a lot of you through email and through some Facebook posts. I am the administrative assistant to Stephanie Ryan. So just helping out with a lot of the nuts and bolts details. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those or learn what those are and get back to you about those. I also have another role with the denomination where I'm doing working with resources for adult discipleship. So you'll see me around in these two different realms, but really excited to get to be a part of the Kids in Worship initiative and really just see my role as being able to serve you guys however I can.
Santis, I think I saw him jump on this call. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sorry for being a little late to the party. But Santis Beatty, and I have the privilege of serving as the director of Next Gen for the Wesleyan Church, also a local student pastor at one of our Wesleyan churches. So
Awesome. So that is our team. So you can put names to faces. So before we jump into everything, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So we know right now we've got 96 people on the call, and that's a lot. So we want to be able to answer as many questions as we can today. So we're going to be doing that in the chat. So if you have a question as we talk through all of this stuff today, we ask that you put your question there. Stephanie Freemeyer and Justine will be monitoring this, and they'll be answering your questions throughout the call. And then after the meeting, if we don't get to all of the questions that come in the chat, we'll gather those together, and we're planning on doing a Q&A document that will be uploaded for you, and we'll tell you where that's going to be. So just make sure you leave your questions in the chat for today, and we'll kind of go from there. So the next thing we want to do is give you access to our criteria document. We want you to be able to follow along today as we go through this discussion. So Justine is going to put a link in the chat for you, and we're just going to give a minute or two for you guys to go on that web page and download the church participation criteria document. So it's on the bottom of the web page. As you guys are doing that, I just want to say a couple other things. So the applications do go live on March 15th. So on this same link, there'll be another button for the application that you can apply right online. So make sure you save that link for March 15th. We also encourage you to share it with your church leadership so they can see that as well. Everybody got it?
Mhm.
All right, so we're going to kind of just dive in, and I'm not going to read them, but I am going to read some of that. So on page 1 and 2 of this document, you can go back and read a lot of this later. I'm kind of just going to summarize this for you a little bit. So a lot of people ask, what is the Kids in Worship Initiative? So this initiative is a project through Next Gen Ministries, and it's aimed at transforming how we engage children in corporate worship and prayer. So we want to help your churches and help the denomination reimagine their worship spaces and their prayer experiences in hopes of bringing all ages together to embrace intergenerational worship experiences. So, in this initiative, Next Gen, I'm sure most of you know this, we received $1.25 million from Lilly Endowment Incorporated. So, the Wesleyan Church, you may not know this, the Wesleyan Church was one of 91 organizations that received funding from this grant. So, we're pretty grateful. I'm very grateful to Stephanie Freemeyer. She did not know I was going to do this. Stephanie and her husband, Daniel, were the ones that wrote this grant for the Wesleyan Church. And so, we're so grateful for their participation and their help with this. So, what are some of the goals and opportunities of this grant so you kind of know what we're talking about? So, we want to offer a place in worship where kids feel like they belong. We want to offer a place where kids are active participants in intergenerational worship, where they grow spiritually and make connections within the church community. Part of this grant is training pastors and ministry leaders and exploring creative approaches to worship and prayer that include children and adults together. We want to equip the next generation of ministry leaders by giving interns hands on experience in leading multi age congregations. And we also want to provide lots of support to you through resources, in person trainings, networking curriculum, sanctuary resources, online trainings, in person trainings, on and on. So, all of this is to inspire a movement toward intergenerational worship services that fully include children and strengthen your church's ability to nurture faith across generations. So I'm going to turn it over just for a couple minutes. In part of this grant, we are writing a curriculum, which we're very, very excited about. This is one of the tools for our K through 4th grade children, and it will be free to all Wesleyan churches. So Stephanie is the curriculum coordinator for this. So I'm going to just kind of pass the mic to her and let her share a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. With the curriculum, Stephanie was sharing a little bit about the objectives of the grant, and that is to really incorporate children into the full life of the church. And this is so important, right, for just creating a sense of belonging for our youth. There's been a lot of research around, Fuller Youth Institute has written multiple books about this, along with multiple other studies that have come out just around like why are we seeing youth leave? And one of the things that came out in this research is the belonging, that the traditions of the church are children are unfamiliar with those because we lean so much into age-specific ministries. And there's a friend of mine, Mark DeVries. Some of you may be familiar with him through the book Sustainable Children's Ministry. Mark has written about this, and one of the things that he has said is, in this age-specific ministry, we have removed children from rubbing shoulders with the very people that can model what mature faith looks like. And that just has really resonated with me. Another thing that has resonated with me as I've kind of dug into some of this research is this concept that I don't think any of us would actually put words to ourselves, and yet there's something about this concept that rings true to how we function as churches, and that's that adults come to church to worship, but children come to church to learn. That is just something that has resonated with me. So all of that to say, bringing kids into the life of our church is just really important for their faith and spiritual development. But that doesn't mean there isn't a space for age-specific ministry to happen. That we have reasons why we do this, and it's important and it's good. And so with this curriculum, what we hope to do is kind of bridge those two worlds so that when they come to our children's ministries, they're not in a whole different culture with different traditions and different songs and different everything. Everything's different in children's ministry than what we do in the sanctuary. We want them to come to children's ministry and for that to be an extension of the culture and the mission of our churches. And so this curriculum that we're writing is being written with that goal in mind. We're writing this in a way that merges the culture and traditions so that when they come to our children's ministries, we're teaching them the traditions that are important in our churches. We're teaching them, the songs that we sing so that when they do join us in the sanctuary, it is a place where they feel like they belong because they're already familiar with the sights and the sounds and the liturgies and the sayings, the phrases, those things, they're already familiar with them because we've done a little bit of teaching that in our children's ministries. Stephanie already mentioned this is being written for kindergarten through 4th grade, and that's our focus. We are translating portions of this into Spanish. I see that question just popped up. Yes, we are translating some of this into Spanish. And then we also, I'm not the writer, I'm the coordinator. So there's a team of people who are writing this curriculum. And then we have a review team that's going to test this curriculum out for us in diverse settings throughout the Wesleyan denomination to give us feedback so that we're hitting the needs of our churches in the denomination. So there's a whole lot more I could talk about this, but I'm going to stop there. If you have questions, drop them in the chat.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So excited about that curriculum. So we're going to just kind of dive in a little bit about let's talk just briefly, what is intergenerational worship? Let's do a little refresher here. So it's generations coming together intentionally, relationally, mutually, serving, sharing, learning alongside one another and together as the body of Christ. So I love it's adults modeling and mentoring for kids and teens, but it's also kids and teens modeling and mentoring for adults as they participate together. And it's recognizing that all generations have something to offer in the body of Christ. So beautiful to me. So why intergenerational worship? So here's this is on page 2. Again, I'm not going to read it, but I'm just going to highlight a couple things for you. Why? Because we believe children are not only recipients of faith, but vital contributors to the life and worship of the church. Why? Because studies show when kids are active participants in worship, they develop deeper sense of belonging, spiritual growth, and meaningful connections within their church community. We believe that congregations are changed and revitalized when they see childlike faith and authenticity with kids in worship. And we want this grant to help nurture worship practices that transcend, like Stephanie said, age specific silos and foster a united culture of faith among all generations. So, we've talked about the goals, we've talked about what it is and the whys behind it. So, let's kind of dive into the actual document. And I'm going to pull it up here. I'm starting on page 3. So, this will give you, we're going to summarize the participation terms for everybody that wants to apply. And we are going to go down through these little by little. So, how are you eligible and what is the commitment level? So, as people apply, we will be choosing one church from each of our 22 districts in the denomination. So, one church out of every 22 districts will be accepted. And this is for a 2.5 year commitment if the churches apply and are selected to participate. So, what are the responsibilities included in this? So, you will be planning and implementing 6 intergenerational worship services over 2.5 years, which is not a lot. We want you to host a ministerial intern, and this is fully funded through the grant, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, in a couple minutes. We want you to provide direction, mentoring, supervision to the intern. We would love for you to modify your children's ministries to align with intergenerational ministry practices. And then we also would love for you to report to the district and share your learning. There's going to be a lot of churches that aren't selected just because we can't select everyone. So we are asking churches that do participate to share their learning in some way, shape, or form through the district. There's collection of data, reflections, feedback. And then we also are offering in-person and virtual trainings. So in these trainings, 2 pastors or leaders from each church can attend the in-person gatherings. All ministry leaders in your church can participate in the Zoom gatherings. One participant is required from each participating church in the Zoom gathering. So 2 in the in-person, as many as you want in the Zoom, you have to have at least one. And then the lead preaching pastor must agree to attend at least one in-person session focused on how to modify sermons for intergenerational audiences. So those are the responsibilities of the church. So the next part is about interns, and there's been a lot of questions asked of us about what this looks like and what this is. So interns, these are provided through the grant. There is funding for this, and we'll talk about that. They can serve for the entire 2.5 years that you participate or part of the term. So it can be a semester or a summer, however you want that to look for your church, you can do it any way you want. We will pay $450 a month by the grant for 8 hours of assistance per week. You have the opportunity to extend those responsibilities and hours if you'd like to for that intern, but any funding over the $450 a month would have to be supplemented by your church. Assignments. So we want you to hire your own people. Like, you know your context better than we do. So we want to make sure you select the candidates that you want. So the people that we would prefer would be ministerial track students from a Wesleyan University or seminary. But we also are saying that anyone that has a sense to call to ministry, it can even be a high school student, is also a viable candidate. So your options are pretty open for that. How will candidates be selected? So we will be in touch with, we've already been in touch before as the grant was being written, with our Wesleyan universities and seminary. And so we will reach out to them when the time comes and let them know about available internships. And then students will apply online. And then we will provide those applications to all participating churches. And then you can select the candidate you want. And we'll come up with a system and a process for all of that to help you. If it's not from a Wesleyan university or seminary, if it's a candidate that's already in your church, or you know that you want to hire, including high school students, that you can give them the online application. We'll make that accessible to you, and then you can select your candidate. So below, I'm not going to read all of those. I'm just going to like pause for like a minute. If you want to just look over those intern expectations, so you kind of know we want them to grow in this, and prepare them for ministry. So those are some of the expectations we have for them. If you add to their hours or add to their responsibilities, that would be on you to add to that. We also, as part of our grant, we submit yearly reports. And so part of the participation for you is we want to know what's going on. We don't want to just turn you loose and never hear from you again. We want to know what you're doing. And so we want you to report and reflect on your insights, your feelings, the obstacles that have been in your way for intergenerational worship, and submit those to us. We will provide a tool for you to do that. Remember, just put your questions in the chat if you have those, because I'm going to just keep on rolling. So, grant funding and benefits. So, this is where a lot of the questions came. And so, here's some of the church grants and benefits. So, for the in person trainings, we will pay for these for you for 2 people to attend from your church. Flights are covered, $350 per round trip flight. Lodging is covered for 3 nights, under up to $150 per night. There's travel meal stipends, so you can see what those are. We will reimburse mileage if you live closer and you want to drive, up to $350 per church. And then rental cars, we're working on that, but we hope to be able to provide that to you guys soon. And then the big benefits are the visual and sensory edition. So you'll receive $2,500 annually for the first 2 years, and then $1,250 for the final half a year. So we want those to enhance your visual and sensory elements in your gatherings. And then also, Stephanie's already talked about the free children's ministry curriculum. Okay, lots of information to take in. So on page 5, I'm going to kind of highlight one per, but there's so many outcomes. And of course, we didn't list all of them, and I'm sure you could add to this list, but I'm just going to kind of call out one per area. So expected outcomes for kids: a stronger sense of belonging in a worship community. I mean, let's go. For congregations, a vibrant intergenerational worship culture. For families, opportunities for shared spiritual growth and worship. For ministry professionals, advanced skills in intergenerational worship leadership. For interns, a broader understanding of ministering to children with new philosophies, for sure. And then districts, we want you to share your learning so other people can know what you participated in. So here's the biggie. So how do I qualify, or do I qualify? So we wanted to open this up to pretty much everyone. So to qualify for participation, it is open to any church size, with at least 5 children who regularly attend. So if you're a big church and you have 5 children, or a tiny church and you have 5 children, you can participate, or you can apply to participate. Staff involvement, we've talked a little bit about that. At least 2 ministry staff members actively participating in gatherings and efforts. The lead preaching pastor has to attend at least one in-person gathering, for delivering sermons in an intergenerational context. Financial standing. So your church must be paying on assessments and in good standing with the district. And we want you to share learning. We've talked about that. So we also are asking for a district superintendent recommendation for the churches that do participate. We will do this via online form. This will not be your responsibility to go to your DS and get this. We will do that for you. So once the applications are submitted, we will send an online form to your DS and share with them which churches in their district are applying. And then they will need to give a recommendation on that online form for your church. So we're looking for a positive recommendation for participation, affirmation of support for shared learning with other churches in the district, and confirmation of good standing and paying on assessments from your DS. Um, I'm not even watching the chat, so I'm sure there's lots of questions going on in there. So I hope you guys are watching that and getting some good information. So let me just talk a little bit about selection timeline. So we have our meeting today, and then applications open March 15th. They will stay open through May 31st. Once we close those applications, the month of June, we will spend our time getting recommendations from your DSs. And then July through August, our team will gather to select the churches that that we will select to participate. And then we will announce the churches that we've selected in September. And then in October, we'll have our first Zoom call to welcome everybody and introduce our participating churches. October through December of this year is the internship phase. And so we'll release applications. You can start with interviews and hiring interns. And then once we hit 2026, we'll be doing in-person gatherings and giving you a ton more information. I've put my contact information on the bottom there, and also Justine's if you need to reach out to us. Um, what I'd like to do right now is kind of just pause. I know I've kind of given you a ton of information, and I'm going to kind of turn it over a little bit to Stephanie and Justine to see if there's any specific questions in the chat you feel like all of us would benefit from hearing aloud.
Yeah, I saw a couple people mentioned they were in agreement with this question about the curriculum use, if churches needed to use that curriculum during the duration of their participation. And at no time is the curriculum required for churches. We get it, like churches are in rhythms or routines, and that might not be the right step for your church. Um, you know, uh, I think one thing I find really helpful is that this process of shifting our worship and prayer practices to include all ages, it really is a process. It's a spectrum, and where we are in that is different for each of us. So if you're at a place where having curriculum to help, teach these things in your children's ministry, if that's where you are, awesome, use the curriculum. If that's not where you are and you need to be making other steps, then we want to equip you to do that. So use the curriculum if it's helpful. Don't use the curriculum if it's not, or if that doesn't make sense for your context. Which leads me to, I think I hear echoes of this in some of the other questions, just around like, do we have to, or can you tell me more what I actually have to purchase, or, I think it would be helpful to clarify that this grant is to equip you. We are not dictating in, like Stephanie Ryan as the curriculum or as the program director is not dictating to you what you have to do to include children in worship. We're going to be facilitating conversations around what that could look like, and then giving you money to decide what that means for your context, because we're all going to be different. We're all going to have different needs. And I think that's our goal here, is to give you the funds to dream about what that needs to look like for you and your church. So those questions of like, what exactly does this need to look like? That's for you and your church to decide. And we're going to give you the money to make that happen.
Anything else that you want to call out? Justine, did you have any?
There were some questions about timeline that I think were helpful. I know that things will be announced in September, and then people were kind of asking when do things begin to roll. And so it looked like October is our first training. And then as far as the internship selection process, we don't have that scheduled until October to December as far as interviewing and applying and all of that. So I don't know if that helps people kind of get a framework of when we're actually going to be hitting the ground running. I'm also seeing lots of questions about the how on the internship thing. And so one of the plans that we have is to reach out to all of the Wesleyan universities and be in touch with their leaders there to say, hey, this program is coming, and we'll start to collect some applications there so we can send some of these students and their applications on to you all. But we're also not going to micromanage that process. So we want to leave space for churches to have leaders step in organically. Like you might have somebody that's already serving in your church that you say, oh man, like I have a little bit of funding to pay them to get engaged even more deeply. Or I have a student that's in the youth ministry that we would love to take in under our wing and invest in intentionally. Like we want you to have the space to do that as well. So the internship is a little bit both and. Like you're going to see some support from us as far as trying to provide some candidates, but we also want you guys to be able to find candidates in your local church or in your area that you think would be a good fit culturally. So I think that's two of the big ones I saw. I don't know anything else, Stephanie, or you saw.
Stephanie, are you still there?
Yes, I am. I was just scrolling through. There's a lot of questions, and so I was trying to get to a few more of those. I don't see any like broad questions to address at this point.
Okay. So what we're going to do is just as a reminder, so the applications will be open March 15th through May 31st. The link that you were sent, the application will be live on there March 15th. We'll also post a link on our Next Gen Facebook page. It will also be on the Next Gen website, on the Wesleyan website. I'm sure we'll post it in the Wesleyan Pastors Facebook page. And then we will also send an email to all of our DSs so they can make sure and share that information as well, as they have done so beautifully for us. Santis, I'm just wondering, is there anything you can think of that we have forgotten or you wanted to add to any of the conversation today?
Yeah, I'm just excited about this opportunity. Thank you to Stephanie and Justine and Stephanie, the two Stephanies. So I know some of you may have gotten that confused. There are two Stephanies on the team, Stephanie Freemeyer, Stephanie Ryan. Sometimes I get confused, and so I have to do that as well. But I think one of the uh, one of the things we want to make sure you know is that we are not trying to dictate anything. We are simply to be a resource to you, not just with the funding, but with support as you go through this process. We know how important this work is. We also know how diverse our churches are, and the needs are vast and very, very different. And we are intentionally making sure that the group of churches we select represent different types of churches in our movement. So one of the worries was, will it only be large churches? And absolutely not. Will it only be small churches? Absolutely not. Will it be suburban or rural or urban? Yes, it'll be all of that. So just know we're going to be prayerful and selective about which churches we choose, and we want it to be the kind of diverse group that can speak to any of those experiences. So thank you for being a part of this. For most of this call, we had over 100 people on, and I think we're down to 99 now. But we're here to resource you and to encourage you. And if you don't get selected, don't worry. The resources that will be developed throughout the process will be intended to resource you on the back end as well. So hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much call today. I am available if you want to email me further questions at kids@wesleyan.org. I'm happy to respond to those. Again, we'll be creating that Q&A document and putting that on the website for you. But as of right now, I think you have what we have. I will also add and say, like, we're learning through this process too. I've never done a grant before. I'm just admitting that. So like I'm learning right along beside everybody else. And so I'm here to help you in the best way that I can. And if I don't know the answer, I will find it for you. So yes, thank you so much for being here, and let us know if we can help you with anything. Santis, would you close us in prayer?
Absolutely. Father, thank you for this gift of time together. Thank you for every church and every district that has been a part of this call. God, we know that this opportunity and these resources and this grant is a gift from you. And so we say thank you for that. Help us to steward that well. We pray in the days ahead as the application process opens, as the selection process begins, that you would help us to discern the next steps and which churches to invite to be a part of this process. But ultimately, it is our prayer that you get the glory out of it all, that you would use this process and this grant to make all of our churches better and to help our denomination lean into intergenerational ministry in a new, innovative, and fresh way. So bless the team, bless every church, bless every district, bless every university. We turn all of this over into your capable hands, and we trust you with the results. In Jesus' name, amen.